This week on Rovo Automotive, we're hanging suspension. All right, so we finally got our hands on the car. First thing we had to do is we had to get the body off of it. So we got the body removed, put it on the body buck that we built in building trades, basically some plywood and 2x4s that kind of holds and supports the body while we got it off. So they ship everything kind of temporarily put together. So there's all these aluminum panels that are temporarily held on with sheet metal screws that have to be taken off. So first thing we did, we got the body off the cart, got it on the ground, started taking off all of these little sheet metal screwed in panels. So I had Katie there and Mark handled most of that. Now they had to mark the back of them where they touch all of the tubes for the chassis. That way we know where we're going to drill them. There you can see some of their marks that they did. We're going to go back and we're going to mark all of these panels. We're going to drill them out, but we'll probably show a little bit of that on the next video. But there's a picture of the car with with all the panels removed. So started hanging suspension parts just to kind of test fit everything, make sure everything fit the way it was supposed to. So here they are, getting the rear differential ready to go. We got the uppers installed, the upper control arms in the car, and then got the lowers on, or the lowers in the car, the uppers on the rear diff, and then we'd kind of rolled her in place, used the jack to bring it up to where it was supposed to be, and just got it located, make sure everything was going to pivot the way it should, make sure there was no binding or anything like that. So everything was in there, everything set up. So the next thing was there's no spring purchase for this because the Factory 5, that's an option to use the factory style Mustang rear suspension. Most people who do these do coilovers. We went with the factory suspension. So first thing we had to do is we had to powder coat those perches, get them in place, mark where we're locating holes. Katie's drilling out the hole there. So then you can see it's powder coated. It's bolted up in place. It's ready to go. We got to get the springs in there. So the only difference with the factory springs and what's going in the car is we're going to cut one coil out of them. So moved on to the front suspension. The front suspension on this car is coilovers. So here Dylan is putting the coilovers together. They kind of come in pieces. You've got the shock itself. You've got the coil spring that fits over that. He's got to put some grease on the threads for that coilover. They are adjustable, which means you can adjust the ride height of the car. So it's pretty cool, compact suspension setup. So there's a little bit of assembly required. So Dylan's following the instructions there, getting everything greased up, getting it put in, getting everything put together. We did run into an issue that we're going to see in a minute with the lower control arms, because we did know we were getting coilovers for the fronts, and we ordered some control arms that went with that, but we had a little bit of a fitment issue. So here he's putting there's a washer that's got a slide that allows the spring to move, but keeps the adjuster on the coilover in one spot. So that's what he's doing there. He's going to slide the spring on, put the cap in the bottom, and then he's going to start tightening that adjuster, and that's going to put tension on that spring. So there is actually quite a bit of adjustment that we can do ride height wise with the coilovers. And there he's got them tight, ready to go, all set to go on the car. So here's our control arms. We ordered these from BBR. They are tubular control arms for a Mustang. Now we knew it had coilover front suspension, so we ordered these control arms for a coilover front suspension. What we didn't take into account was that the coilovers on a Mustang are different than a coilover on the Factory 5. And you can see the Factory 5 control arms have that pocket in the middle. That's where the lower controller or the lower coilover fits. So what Factory 5 wants you to do is take a stamped stock arm and actually modify it, cut a hole in it, and then weld a piece to it. We figured if we're going to do that, we're going to do it with better arms. So we looked at the Factory 5 pieces, which looks just like ours. It's just got a little saddle in the middle. Took some measurements, looked at their blueprints, got everything measured out. We designed some actually components to a saddle that will fit inside of the lower control arm. Plugged it into the Tormac and had it cut out some pieces for us just to see if this was even possible or see if this would work for us. Got all the pieces out, fit them together. So there you can see the front of the saddle and the rear of the saddle in our control arm. And you can see the side pieces put out. So we got everything in there, got the shock bolted to it, tacked it in place, and then we bolted it up to the front suspension to make sure everything works and make sure there was no binding. So you can see this is with the kind of the initial fit, just to make sure everything bolted up, make sure that the suspension would travel, and it worked pretty well. So we went ahead and fully welded it in, got them cleaned up, painted, and this is what you got. So here we got the whole front suspension on it, our lower control arms with our modification to it, coilovers, front spindles, upper A-arms, brake rotors on there, got the steering rack in, pretty much everything test fitted in the front suspension. So that's about it for this week. We'll probably start doing aluminum panels on the next video. So as always, thanks for watching. Appreciate the support.